Joey, welcome aboard. Thank you for joining. Mr. Major Ed Pulido himself. I apologize for the inconvenience, sir.
We're good now. What a great day to be an American.
Heck yeah, amen to that, my friend. And God bless you for coming on the show and all that and joining us and sharing some of the love with everybody.
Well, I appreciate it. God bless America. I hope you can see me. And you know what? I'm fired up about talking to you, brother.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very excited and all that. Now, if you can, I'll do a little introduction. This is Major Ed Pulido right here. He's of right here, ladies and gentlemen, Heart of a Lion, John Daly, Major Ed Foundation. It's very special. He is a Purple Heart recipient. He was a member of the United States Army. And now I will let the reins go over to Mr. Major Ed himself.
Well, hey, I appreciate it. What a great day to be an American. I see a bunch of people on the thread here, and you know what? They're following us. My good friend Travis Stevens, appreciate the message and the love. I always try to let everybody know how important all my friends are and just the movement of what we're doing with the foundation to provide mental, physical, and wellness support to our nation's veterans and their families, our first responders, and America's children, and now the elderly. You know what? We're trying to take care of everybody. And the great thing about what we do is that we inspire, we motivate, and we let people know how important it is that philanthropy can be a vehicle to support what we're trying to do for those heroes. And that to me is what it's all about. I see my good friend Brian Miller too, Samoski.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you. I love it. I love it. Thank you everybody for joining. This is a very special evening. And it's a heck of an introduction because I'm in the tobacco industry, cigar industry, and trying to bring the military side and what you do over to the cigar industry to introduce it, to mesh everybody together.
I like that. And I think the other thing too is that, we do a lot within the golf community. That's always a highlight. And the thing about it is that I'm inspired by, what you're doing, the support that you've given me with the organizations that I've been involved with. I do a lot of work with many people. Specifically, I just saw somebody with our good friends with the Scars and Stripes coffee. And you know what? Everyone is doing their part. Everyone's got products that they want to promote and be inspired by. And the thing about it is the cause marketing effect of what happens when we can join forces, raise money, and then more importantly, give it away to deserving individuals that need that support. That to me is what we're all about here at the foundation, but with everybody that I come in contact with every day. And I'm just honored and grateful, after the Super Bowl that, we can all kind of get together and watch a game. And then after that, we go back to doing what we do best. And that is, being great Americans.
Amen to that. So how does your foundation, what got you into it? First of all, tell us a little bit about your story about being in the Army, if you don't mind.
Well, I tell you what, when I was 17 years of age, I decided to raise, my hand and basically not only salute the flag, but also salute my nation. And I took the oath of office to defend the greatest nation in the world, the United States of America, with no apology. And you know what, I'm one of those people that is inspired by service and sacrifice and seeing what my father did for years and how he strapped up his combat boots each and every day. He's actually a Colombian immigrant who came to this country, and that's how he got his citizenship. And that to me is the essence of the power of America is, immigrants have built this country, but my dad did it the right way. And I always tell people, that's what it was all about. And all of a sudden, he decided he wanted to join years ago, Vietnam era. And you know what? I followed in his footsteps at age 17 and took that oath of office and served as an enlisted service person and, infantry and all of the other stuff that you do when you're young. And then decided to go green to gold. I wanted to be an officer. I had leadership principles that I knew that were embodied in me by the people that were mentors of mine growing up. My father was a chief warrant officer, so I saw a lot of officers and what they stood for, what they believed in, and why they led the men and women that they did. And the thing about that is that was inspirational to me. And whether you're a non-commissioned officer, an enlisted service member, or an officer, all of us work together to accomplish the mission. We have each of us have different roles that we play, but at the end state is we're all together and we all cross the finish line with one another, and we never leave anyone behind on the field of battle. And that was really the start of my life, of what I did in the not only in the intel world, but infantry, and then field artillery, and then working with all the teams that I worked with over the years in different branches. And that was one of the unique jobs that I had, was I was able to work with many branches of service, and also coalition forces too, that enabled me to get a different viewpoint of what the world is all about, but more importantly, what all our armed forces are all about. Because not all of us are the same, but we do have the same mission and the same requirements, but we all kind of stand together, you know, living our branch of service, whether it's a Navy, to the Marines, to the Army, to the Coast Guard, to the, you know, now the Space Force, and currently, you know, the Air Force. All of us have a job and a responsibility, and that is to protect the American people. And that's what my life was all about. And I will tell you that today I stand tall knowing that I serve the greatest nation in the world, the United States of America, and its armed forces.
100%. I had the great pleasure of meeting you and all that at Rally Point, because I'm also, you know, a shareholder of Armed Forces Brewing Company, which I have the utmost respect for them, and the opportunity for all of us to get together. It was amazing. I got to meet Tim Montana. I got to meet Dave Bray USA, Alan Beal, freaking just, you know, Darren, and everybody was so great and welcoming. And people don't realize how humble everybody is when you come together. The Rally Point was an awesome, and my hat's off to you, 100%, sir, for everything that you've done, and the inspiration and your motivation piece for many people.
Well, you know what? It's funny you say that. We lost a great American 2 days ago. I know Travis was on here, and Travis and I have known this gentleman by the name, and I'll say it, my good friend Jay, long drive hero. Just sadly, life ended for him, and it was too short. And I always think about. I just saw my good friend Linda that just joined. I will tell you
Thank you.
Her being at United Way, and I remember the love that I got when I came back from war, and how important that was. And the thing that I learned from that experience is, what do I need to do to pay it forward? And for years, what you just described is what I've been doing. It's not about me. It's about the fact that I get gratification from the support that I give others. I also get gratification for the fact that I've been supported by so many people. And the thing is that when you go through a tragedy and a tragic event like I did, you reach for help. I wasn't one of those people that wasn't me. And the great thing about all of that is that I had to learn how to do all of that. And so going full circle in that, and your question is the fact that, you know, I was around those Armed Forces Brewing folks just recently when we were all together. And it was about the fact that you don't have to be in the armed forces to be a part of our family. Right. You're part of our family because we're Americans. That to me is what's so important to highlight, is all of the other stuff. You know, you've got people that'll take the oath and defend, like McBee. I mean, that Navy SEAL, 260 something mission. Man, that guy's a machine. He's an animal. And the thing about it is, you want people like that, but also you want people that are civilians that just care. They care about their loved one that may have served, or they care about their community, their security, all of the things that are important. And as my good friend Brian Miller stated, you know, patriots. We're all patriots for a cause. We're all patriots for freedom. And when I wrote my book, that's how I premised it, was Warrior for Freedom was about what can we do purposefully to make a difference. And I will tell you, everyone in this country, no matter what background you come from the CEO to the janitor to the person that may be homeless, you're a difference maker in some way, and that's what you got to cultivate. Don't give up, never quit, and understand it. You know what? At the end of the day, we've all gone through challenges in our lives, and it's how you deal with them and how you are able to get through them and past them. And, and like I said, with my friend Jay, he was dealing with some major demons that, we'll never know what that was all about. But at the end of the day, I got a chance to say goodbye to him. And the thing is that it's sad, but it puts life into perspective on how important it is and how important it is for us to just always stand together as Americans.
What you couldn't say that any better. And that's the huge thing is my thoughts is the biggest one is don't forget our fallen.
Yeah.
Never forget. They are never forgotten. As long as we keep posting and keep talking about them, they're always going to be alive in our hearts. And it won't be in vain because they've given the ultimate sacrifice for our country, and it will allow us, especially for myself, I could speak for myself, to be able to have this honor to have a conversation with you. It goes for gentlemen like you and like me fighting and everybody else and doing their part to be able to do this. And that's what we need to do and help focus and not worry about the petty things, but worry about people. Be happy, be positive, and help people. Reach out. Like we donated to with Charles Strange for the Michael Strange Foundation.
Great man.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely. I had the honor of doing an interview with him. I mean, and Mary, that was fabulous. And just like, Bill Brown.
Yeah.
To do an interview with him. That was exciting. We had a great conversation. But it's about what can we do as a whole, as United States Americans, to help.
Well, and I want to bring that up with the Strange family for those of of our viewers that have joined and are part of the program today and are listening to what we have to say. I just appreciate them coming on board. Mr. Strange's story is a powerful story that actually it touched me. I know it touched you. When we met, it was so funny. I don't meet strangers. You know how I am. I'm like, hey, I just love on people. And I tell you what, I've had some people say, some in the doctor community, hey, you got to be careful because, you can get sick. And you know what? At the end of the day, look, I've already been through so much in my life. Come on, bring it, baby.
Right.
Good Lord with me, he guides me, and I don't worry about that kind of stuff. I hug people, I love on people, and when I met the Strange family, man, they touched me to a point where I didn't know their story like that, and I knew that there were stories of what had happened with the SEALs and those helicopters going down. Some of the things that happened within government, and this isn't political, but it's about the fact that there are cover-ups. We make mistakes. I've always looked at things like when you make a mistake, just like this Ohio thing that just went down. You make a mistake, you own up on it. And, you say, hey, this is what happened. This is what went down. And I take full responsibility for it. The reason that you do that is because at night, you're the one that has to go to sleep. And you have, in my case, I have a guiding light. I have the good Lord that my good friend Daryl Davis is in the house just now.
Thank you.
That guy is the man too, by the way. And I have people like him and others, they understand what it's all about. And sometimes our integrity, our character, who we are, what we're all about, and how we treat people is so impactful. And that to me is the way I sort of approached that. And when I heard the Strange family story, I could tell that they're hurting and all they want is answers from our government. And
rightfully so, like you said.
And when you connect all the pieces together, look, I don't care who takes what the responsibility is here, but when you take the responsibility of the fact that we have Navy SEALs that die in the line of duty, and that we have intel that is incurred that could compromise our best forces in the world, the training that went to just get those individuals to where they're at, like you can't compromise that.
No.
And that's where we need answers. And look, I've read his story. I understand it. And the thing about it is that sometimes you just got to come up clean and say, hey, we made a mistake. And these weapon systems should have never been in the hands of the insurgency or the terrorists. And again, we don't negotiate with terrorists. I've just never understood that. And so when you read Mr. Strange's story of challenge and of change and of loss and grief, it really impacts you in the heart, and just tells you that, you know what, at the end of the day, anything can happen. And there's going to be people that, I feel like I can tell you this much after reading that and then understanding his story personally from him, that there was some dishonesty. And not American people don't need to know everything, but they certainly need to make sure that they come clean with these families, because it's important for their closure. And losing a loved one in the military is a very, very sad situation. And I don't know, I'm putting a shout out. Read that book. It's a very impactful book. He's done his research. It's powerful, man.
I love that book. I even had my wife read it because she was really interested. She got to meet them and all that. When we were at Rally Point, I read the book. You can't put the book down. Once you start reading it, you're in it. You hear the story, and then when you hear them, I've talked to them offline and everything, and it just amazes you on the strength and the courage that this family has, and that no matter what, they're still going forward with Godspeed and helping other Gold Star family members.
Yes. That to me was when the inspiration too, is that their heart is in the right place and they want to pay it forward as well. And that to me, you know, that's what I learned when I was working, when I came back and you know, began my, what I call my second phase in life with the United Way. I remember those are the things that I learned very quickly, is what can I do to pay it forward to someone else? Bob Spinks and Linda and so many of the, and I just mentioned, these are names, but these were people that truly were inspirational to me, that, you know, at the end of the day, we do things not for ourselves, but to better the world and better our community and better ourselves, with the fact that empathy is something that guides us. And when you read stories like his, and then I meet so many people each and every day, everyone has a story to tell, and every story makes an impact and changes lives. And that to me is the inspiration behind my story of what it's called Warrior for Freedom, and challenge, triumph, and change. While challenge was sitting on the battlefield almost losing my life, triumph was taking the first step after amputation, and then change is doing what I'm doing today, that it changed me for the better in regards to how I view the world and how I view my faith and my love for family and my love for country. Because at times, you know, you might think that after you go through a tragedy of mine or anybody else's that has gone through a challenge like that, the last thing you want is your country to leave you behind. And that's what I learned too from our Vietnam veterans, is the mistakes made on them will never be made on us. And if you get anything from this whole story today, is that those Vietnam veterans didn't deserve what they got.
Absolutely
and
not.
They had those scars for so long, and that's sad.
It's heartfelt because I go through mental health through the VA and all that, and I have groups that I go to with the Vietnam vets. Man, the stories that they have, it's heartbreaking. You're 100% right. It's like, they'll be talking about stories. I have one gentleman with shrapnel that went through his head. Now he has a disease that his brain is slowly deteriorating and all that. And they were totally disrespected in every shape and form. And they turned their backs. And now it's like, oh, now we'll have answers for you. And it's like, oh, it's a little late now when you're already at this stage of life. But in return is like you putting out your story and going motivation. Like, it's an inspiration. You go to, people don't know that you do junior ROTC.
Yeah, I did junior ROTC. Yeah.
I saw that. That's why I had to put it in the clip, because that's amazing. not only are you inspiring other people, but you're inspiring young men and women to hopefully go and maybe go in the military, make an impact, and be
Yeah,
successful.
we did it. In fact, we did that today. Young man told me, "Hey, I'm joining the military because of what you said at an event here at Choctaw High School." And he sent me a text, and he's like, "I just want you to know I took the oath of office, and it was the best feeling I've ever had." And I'm thinking to myself, man, those are the stories I want to hear. All this other stuff, craziness going on in our military right now,
What's up,
get all
Daly?
that stuff out. It's not that culture stuff doesn't belong in there. We're all wearing the same uniform. We all stand tall. We all get up every morning. We all say the Pledge of Allegiance. You know, we love our flag. We love our country. And you know what? At the end state, you know what? It's not about all of the other stuff that's going on out here in the world of just negativity. And that to me is, you know what, that's what I live by. I don't care who's serving in the armed forces, as long as you're in that foxhole. And I will say this: you got to be in that foxhole, and you better believe in God, because the atheists believe in God. Once somebody starts firing on you, I'm telling you, if
Mm-hmm.
you're an atheist, you kind of change course real quick. But
It changes lives.
it's not just about God. It's about being faithful, faithful to yourself, faithful to the things that you love and things you do, and being faithful to your nation and how those guiding principles. And I'll tell you, I say this in some of my speeches when I'm talking about diversity. If you know anything about what happened in the 60s, late 60s, 70s, it was actually a perfect storm in a way, negative wise. The black community was under fire, of course. There were issues there. You know, Martin Luther King highlighted all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Others. Then there was women and rights and privilege and some of the things that were going down there. And then you've got the military at that point. As you look at all of at that whole spectrum and the negativity behind that war. And now all of a sudden you've got just this storm of different things and animosity and negativity. Unprecedented times, kind of this like the Civil War aspect. You know, people, you can't agree on things. And my hope is that we can learn from those mistakes and how people were treated and respect people better as we move forward. And that is just my message there, is that you have to talk about these historical aspects. And I'm a history guy, and all of that said, I wouldn't be here today without the fact that all of these people before me have gone before me and have done some great things to get us to the point that we're at today. And I celebrate life every day because of it. And that to me is who we are as Americans, that respect this nation and respect one another and respect the fact that at the end of the day, you know, freedom has a price.
It does have a price, and people don't know it, and they should know it. Learn and understand what the real truth is going on, stand behind it. Even if, and that's what I've noticed. Yeah, there was a lot of different things that happened in the 60s and the 70s. But on those unfortunate, a lot of powerful people came through, like you said, Martin Luther King. I mean, all different waves. They came out of the ashes and grew from it and oversaw everything to where, hey, we got to make a change. But you know what? That they all did? They all fought for
Yeah.
it. They stood for what's right. They didn't be, cowardice and kind of go back in the hole and all that and say, "Well, I'm jumping away. I don't want no part of this. I know you're right, but I'm not going to back you up." No, stand firm for what is right. Just like him, it's a story. It's a very powerful story. But we're all Americans and we stand up for each other.
Well, and that's true. And the thing is, my good friend Tim Marler just joined. Good friend from Michigan, man. Inspired by him. When we met, it was funny. You meet people across this spectrum of life, and everyone has something to contribute. And that's my point here: is all of us have something to contribute. all of us are worthy of who we are and what we're all about. And, you can learn a lot from a lot of individuals. I'll say this. I was working with an individual that was homeless recently. I don't really tell these stories very much because, on social media, you got to be very careful with people. When you're talking about HIPAA and you're talking about people's personal issues. But I met this individual that was homeless, and he's not homeless anymore. And the guiding principle behind it was, I asked, why are you living like this? Is there no other options? And at the time he said, you know what, I lost my family. I lost everything. I just wasn't a good person. I don't think I can get back to being a good person anymore. And that's why I'm out on the streets. I mean, that's like an interesting dynamic, to say the least. But how do you empower someone like that? Well, you empower them by saying, well, you know what? You matter. Number one. Two, we
Yeah.
care. Three, are you willing to get out of this situation if somebody helps you? Will you make a commitment today? I mean, it's kind of like when you go to church, and you follow the good Lord and you commit to certain principles of life. And to me, we don't ask those questions of people. We don't have the time. And look, trust me, I struggle with that. But the thing is that we were able to get this individual out of homelessness because there was one overarching principle behind it. And that was that the question was asked, when you took the oath of office, did you ever expect to be in this situation? And he'd been kicked out of the military and all of that. And he couldn't answer that. And I said, well, what is it going to take to get you out of this situation and get you back to where you feel like you're an empowered individual? We connected him with our good friends that are doing some powerful things and are community based, and got him some mental health, got him a job. I will say that, housing, employment, and mental health, physical health and wellness and faith will carry you through if you're able to kind of put all of those things in one basket. And then all of a sudden, you know what, he was able to get out of homelessness and is moving forward. And the thing is, it's in a very short time, there was a little time taken to do that. And look where this individual is at now. It may not be the best job in the world right now, but certainly he's got shelter and he's got the basic needs met, and hopefully he can get it together. And the thing about it is that, you know what, all he wanted to do was also be connected with his brothers and sisters, and we were able to do that too. And that to me is something that's missing in the military right now. People get out, you get disengaged from your daily routine, and all of a sudden life spirals. And we can be better than that. That's my point.
Oh, absolutely. And like your story, the homelessness, what can people do? It's easy. It's simple. Put your hand out, just like what you did. Reach down and help them out. It's the same thing with the military code. You don't have to be in the military. Fight, first responders, they go through the same thing. You help pick each other up.
Yeah.
You got each other's six. And I mean, when I say six, that means your rear. That's what you do. You defend each other. You got each other's backs. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a past, and everybody goes through hard times. It's not perfect, because if it was perfect, we wouldn't be here. This is an imperfect world. We all got stories and got skeletons. But like you said, can you overcome it? Make sure that the person matters. Because right now, it hurts my heart when you see all the suicides.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't settle well for me.
No, and I'll tell you one thing too, is people can be very cruel. I can take the hits. When you're in this position that I'm in, I think you've experienced this. You'll have some people out there that are like wondering, well, what's he doing this? What benefit is? And I always come to this conclusion, man. When I came back and I was wounded, I wasn't in a very good state, and I came up to a street light here in Oklahoma City, in a very economically challenged community. And I come to that street light, and I remember thinking to myself as I approached that light and saw a veteran fellow veterans sitting in that corner, man, I told myself, I said, wow, it could be easy to get to that point. And it may sound a little morbid like that, but it was like all of us are one step away from that. And the thing is, I thought about that individual. I mean, and it was an interesting, I don't talk about it very much because that to me, when someone says something about me and what I'm doing and, you know, how great my life may be or whatever, they don't really understand that at that particular time, I didn't want to be in that position where that individual was. And I was going to do everything in my power to not be there. It's not that I'm patting myself on the back or anything of that nature. It's the fact that there are people that are hurting, and our job is to reach out and try to give them a hand up, like you said, and not a handout. And to me, that was the inspiration behind that. That, you know, take the Wounded Warrior logo. It's about picking a service member up and bringing them up, man, not and carrying them if you got to carry them on your back. But at the end of the day, you have to carry yourself. You have to have some self-motivation too to get to that next level. And if sitting on a corner and that's your choice, that's what you want to do, and you're perfectly content with that, then you know what, that's on you. But my point is that for me, that just wasn't an outcome or a choice or where I wanted to be. And I always tell people, I was like, do you want me to be successful in life, or do you want me to be on that corner? And at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you this because it's a very important thing. Someone offered me to build a home for me. And what I told them is, God bless you. Thank you for the offer. I'm not interested, but I have a service member with 7 children that could use it. And the reason I said that is because I've worked hard to get to the point that I'm at today. And I felt like in that moment, I could have took that, but I didn't. I didn't because I know that I've been successful because of hard work and motivation, inspiration, and support. And I mention that story because it's a powerful story about the fact that this individual with the 7 children would call me and he's like, thank you for what you did. I've been on a waiting list. You know what? That young soldier was on a waiting list and he really needed that. And now he's got a landscape business. He's doing very well. And the thing about it is that that's an example of sometimes something's not good for you, but it may be good for someone else. And sometimes, you know what, maybe you may benefit from it, but at the end of the day, it wasn't the benefit that I wanted. The benefit I wanted was to pay it forward to someone else. And that's exactly what happened.
Absolutely. You did something that unselfish.
Mm-hmm.
You did it for the family. It wasn't about anything else. It's like, hey, and you know what? In return, you both were successful.
Oh, yeah. And rewarded.
Exactly. You were gratified in just being able just to help somebody who really truly needed it. And that's what I love Folds of Honor. That's why I'm a part of it, because it's exciting because they help people to give back. You have so many different ones, Code of Vets, that they help the homeless. She does amazing work by herself on practically almost.
Mm-hmm.
She's so graceful about it. It's an amazing story. It truly is, on how much that woman is trying to help freaking homeless veterans, anybody basically who needs help.
And we talked, me and her, you know, with Code of Vets, beautiful, beautiful soul. We talked about some of those haters that I'm talking about. God bless, there's my dog. But we talked about that, and it was just an interesting dynamic because she goes through some of that as well. And it's tough that people just being mean and hateful, and all she's doing is trying to help on a shoestring budget. And, you know, at the end of the day, just don't knock the people that are trying to help people. How about just say, you know what, thank you for what you're doing for someone else, and just pat them on the back, you know, because life's not easy for me. I get up every day, I have to put on a prosthetic leg and run around, and sometimes that leg doesn't fit right, and I have phantom pain that occurs, or I may have, skin irritation issues, and, my back will hurt, my neck will hurt. You know what? I don't ever tell anybody any of that. I'm just telling you just because it's an example of the fact that I get up every day and I want to help people. And so for me, when I talked to her about that, she says, how do you deal with that? I said, you know what? I deal with that because I deal with it just like this. There are going to be people that are going to be extremely jealous of what goes on in your life or what you may be doing. And at the end of the day, just remember that the good Lord did it, and he didn't need a pat on the back. He did it because it was the right thing to do. And if you stand on the right principles of why you're doing what you're doing, and you're helping people every day, you'll be successful. And you're going to have one or two people that may not agree with you, but at the end of the day, what are they doing to make a difference? What are they doing to empower and support someone in need? And that to me is what we all have to deal with in this social media, world that we live in, which is a great world, but it's got its issues too. And that's one of them, is that you have to accept criticism. And I've accepted it too. When I went on Fox News, I remember, and this was really kind of hit home for me, to have my fellow Americans wish me negative ill or death or whatever to me and my family, because I was going on Fox News to talk about Soleimani and the fact that we took him out, and the fact that the reason that he was taken out was for the fact that he was the bomb maker or the head of the bomb making strategy in Iran, and he needed to be taken out. And I remember seeing, out of the 100,000 comments or whatever, 99% of them were great, but there was just one little 1%. I'm just like thinking, where are these Americans at in life? I mean, why would you ever want to wish ill will on someone? And so I'm glad we brought this subject up, because I talked to a lot of nonprofit people about that you're going to have individuals who are not going to be happy with what you're doing and may say something that's negative about it. But don't let that be the compromising issue for why you can't move forward and why you can't continue to do the great work you're doing. Because that, to me, those kind of comments are nothing in the flip of the fact that when you help someone and you get them out of homelessness, or you provide mental health, or you provide their family guidance on how to navigate the VA system, it may not sound like a lot, but it is. And that's helping people, and that's important.
And I thank you, because whether people realize it or not, by you being on here, that's like therapy for me. Because with the VA and stuff like that, people, you get down, you get into a depressed mode.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their good days and bad days.
Yeah.
I have a lot going on, but that's okay. Because at the end of the day, I go one day at a time. That's all I can do. And the grass of what you can control with right now. Like my wife, she has breast cancer and ovarian cancer. She fights every single day. She gets up. She has a smile on her face every day. She teaches Sunday school at church. But she always makes sure she's up and smiling. Whether I'm down, it's kind of like, that's why it's Compass Rose and She's My Rose, is because I look up to her for the strength that she has to get up and still have that smile and wanting to do it every day. And that's the whole thing, is, like you said, empowerment. Help each other. Stop trying to tear people down. Start, building people up.
Yeah.
A lot goes a long way.
Well, it does. And the other thing about it too is that for all of us that are on this call, the reason that's we started the John Daly Major Ed Heart of a Lion Foundation was to do something purposeful. And we raise money and we give it away to organizations, kind of a little bit of a United Way model. Then we do a lot of things that are what I call, those are the externals. We do internals, which we help people with suicide prevention, mental health. We connect them with groups like Warriors for Freedom, for morale, welfare, and recreation, working with other organizations that have like interests. So, to me, that is so powerful. And that is why I'm doing the work I'm doing. I wrote a book about my experiences called Warrior for Freedom. I did it for therapy, actually. A lot of people, actually, two things. I did it for therapy for me, and then I also did it for therapeutic process to help others that may be going through a cancer battle or anything, just to find some inspiration about, the 10 words that got me through my crisis time,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of them: perseverance, resiliency, integrity, flexibility, those words: courage, honor, duty, responsibility. All those words they may just be words to people, but they're not words to me. And my good friend Fish just jumped on board, man, with
Right,
the
right.
idea. Yeah, and those are all words of empowerment, but I use them for therapeutic process too. And when you meet a cancer, and somebody going through cancers, or an amputee, or someone that's dealing with a brain injury, I give them that copy of that book for free, and I say, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, just read it, and hopefully you can be inspired to write a book, or be inspired to keep a diary, or to just write down your strengths and your weaknesses, and maybe where you want to go, and your coat of arms of how you get out of this, negativity at this point. Because I always say this, man: the best thing that ever happened to me was losing my left leg. I'll tell you that right off the bat. It really changed me, but it made me who I am today. And that's the Major Ed Pulido story, and I'll identify with that. That the fact is, I'm the one-legged man, man. So I got to keep ticking with the prosthetic.
But I love you, man, because everything that you do, you just you have a smile on every single time. And even at Rally Point, you just kept smiling and embracing everybody. And that's very powerful right there. That speaks volumes about who you are as a person and a caring person. Even though things it might be very tragic, it might be very bad, but you're still fighting. You're pushing through. And that's the big thing, is that's why I'm doing like the podcast, is to help, because a lot of people don't like to talk about these type of subjects, but we need to talk about them. Need it sometimes, like the suicides, man. Just if somebody would just pick up the phone and say, hey, I have a problem, I just need to talk it out, and just listen. Sometimes just being out here and just listen, that's enough. That's all that somebody needs to help save a life, because it's important. Even
Well,
our young people are going through it.
you're absolutely right, and I think that's a big epidemic, and a lot of people are. But I think it's a cultural thing too, and I've been studying this quite a bit for a while now, and it has been an interesting. It's an interesting topic of conversation. Now the numbers at 17 that take their lives per day. The reason that number's gone down in some regard is there has been some great prevention and some great tactical analysis being done on it. We're recognizing traumatic brain injuries, which is a signature wound of the war. A lot of the football players struggle with that, injuries. I mean, living with pain. That has a lot to do with all of that stuff. You come back from whatever experience you've had, and there's a lot of pain that goes along. My good friend Brendan Coulter talks about that with his movement, and some people don't like it. I mean, for him, cannabis has been something that he had to kind of look at, because he was taking pills. And when you're taking a lot of pills, and what do you do to combat that? And he learned real quickly that when you get out of the hospital and they give you a big old box of pills, and this is what you're taking, and your mind's not right, man. And so there's a lot of things with the opioids that went down with our military. And the fact that, I'll give you this point, man. A lot of people have asked me, I got off that stuff. I had to get off that stuff when even though I felt like I needed it. I got off that stuff quickly when I was in the when I got out of the hospital, and I got boxes full of that stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, this stuff is just making me lethargic and not feeling right, and then your heart's kind of not beating correctly, and it's just it's a medication downturn is what I call it, and it's called the silent wounds of war, or your own silent wounds. I don't know. You didn't have to go to war to experience stuff.
Right.
It messes you up mentally and physically to where you just don't really feel like you want to get up. And the thing is that yeah, you get up and you don't want to be active, and depression hits, and PTS, combat stress, whatever it may be, hypervigilance, all of that. Those are things that there's a lot of people that have to deal with that every day. If you be in a car wreck, that'll be something you have to deal with. You know what I mean? So
Right.
to me, it's extremely, someone just mentioned hazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, yeah, it's that hazy effect that you just like, wow, you're like it's like that. I watched that movie with the zombies, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I felt like that at one point when I got out of the hospital. I was like, what's next? And if you don't have anybody to support you and guide you through all of that, it can be troubling.
It is, but again, it's very addictive. You have Schneider and all that. That's awesome right there.
I love that. No, that's my boy. He was cooking. I think he had a crawdad broil or something, man. He was all on fire. It looked good.
Oh, wow.
These are,
Yeah,
yeah, they're great people. He's one of the, real quick on him, 5'11" tactical. The cool thing about it is I'm seeing all these, seeing a lot of these friends, like my good friend Fish, he great basketball player, man. There's a lot of people that don't make it in the NBA that are in for long periods of time. And that's why, a lot of people kind of downplaying LeBron James and everything. My point is that when you get to that stature in life like that, that's powerful. But my point of that is that I think at the end of the day, like my good friend, Mr. Schneider, dude, worked with the FBI for years, Anaheim PD, doing extremely well, worked for a group called 5'11" Tactical, all the tactical gear that you can get. And then now he's living in outside of Nashville, out there by, I think it's Old Hickory. Beautiful, beautiful place. And the thing about him that's so powerful is that his giving heart, man, I have to say this. I learned from people like this. His giving heart to cook a bunch of steaks for people in the federal, in the FBI, and go to Washington area and do that, and do it religiously. And the love that he got for doing it, it wasn't just about buying his products. It was actually about cooking those steaks and fellowshipping. And that's one thing we don't do a lot of in this country right now, is fellowship together. And I know he had a crawfish boil last night. And it's about fellowshipping with people. And it should be about being with being together and eating. I'm going to eat dinner tonight, and I eat with my family anytime that I can get an opportunity, because there's conversation to be had. And there's also, that family unit. And then you say a prayer before your meal. Isn't that kind of cool, just to be able to do that, just like you do the Pledge of Allegiance every morning? It's the power of who we are and what we're all about. And my good friend Fish, one thing I've always learned about him too is that, diversity is important. It doesn't matter where you come from, what color of your skin, or who you love, or whatever it is, man. We're all together, and we're all Americans, and we must love one another.
100%. That's spot on. Everybody's got to get over that stuff. We're all one freaking person, okay? We're Americans. We do the same things. God bless it. So I do have a question, though. So the John Daly Foundation, you and John Daly, what is the purpose of it? What do you guys actually do?
Well, we do mental, physical, and wellness to our nation's children. Boys and Girls Club is our charitable group that John Daly is a byproduct of. John is a very special man. I'll tell you what. In fact, I guess I can make this announcement. Charles Barkley just joined our board. John Gruden. We've got some great people that are on our board. Ryan Franklin, former Major League Baseball player. And then just everyday people that want to do something. But one of the things that we like to do is provide support to the Boys and Girls Club nationally, all over this country. Secondly, support first responders with anything that they may need, mental health, equipment. We bought ladders. We've done some other stuff that, in fact, a friend of mine was able to get a ladder in Colorado for one of the fire departments there, and he had it in a they had a what, like when you're out in the farmland, and they've got their volunteer fire department. Well, they ended up getting a fire department in the area, and they had all of this other equipment excess. Well, they gave it to another fire department. I mean, facilitating that, what a great thing we did. And with John Daly and the Boys and Girls Club, he was a byproduct of the Boys and Girls Club. So that to me is so powerful too. And then our other focus is, of course, on veterans and their families, and dealing with the suicide prevention issues, to advocacy, working on the Major Richard Starr Act right now, which is something that is a travesty. The 54,000 veterans that got chaptered out. I did. I mean, I'm chaptered out at 19 years of service. When you don't get to the 20 years, even though I get paid for 20, there's an offset, and their money gets taken away. It's a travesty.
Oh,
so
man.
we need to be corrected. And we are, and that's what we're doing, working with our legislators. And they didn't pass it last session in the 117th Congress, but I will tell you that we're working hard to get it passed on the 118th Congress. And hopefully they'll make it happen, because you're taking away money from veterans and maybe a young enlisted service member that only probably put in 5 years of service. You're taking money away from an individual like that. And the way I look at it, you're taking money away and food away from their family. And I have an issue with that.
Absolutely. So a good question is, since I'm in the tobacco industry, what can we do to help? That's the biggest thing, is for people, what can we do to help you?
Well,
And what you're doing?
yeah, just spread our message, spread our word, let people know that we're involved. We're here as an organization. And we're not the only one. There's a lot of other organizations, Folds of Honor, there's Warriors for Freedom, there's USO, there's Wounded Warrior Project. Get involved with an organization that meets your needs. Gary Sinise Foundation, my good friend Jim Ravel, with them. I'm about making sure that these organizations, Scars and Stripes Coffee, empowering our veterans, they just crank things up, and they're in the coffee space. They're doing these like coffee, they're like coffee platforms. They're going to put them in all the Walmarts, and then people can go and get coffee from them. And it's a veteran-owned business, and it's a coffee container. What a noble idea. You know what I mean?
Right?
Veterans like coffee, and they like to fellowship. So that's a great way to get that connected. And I'm helping them move their needle forward at some fundraising efforts for these containers. So all of that said, that's a way you can get involved. And then the other thing too is just Armed Forces Brewing Company. Invest in that. We're both investors, and in that's going somewhere too. So there's a lot that we could do. Just support veterans, first responders, and just support people in general. And you know what? We'll all win.
Amen. That's 100%. I love it. Thank you so much. I mean, it's just so exciting and all that, and that's why I'm trying to. Well, I'm working on to found my 501c, because that's what I'm trying to do with the podcast, is turn it into that, to where through my sacrifice for a lot of different bad things that's happened in my past. Well, basically it's like life experiences. Like, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I was one that fell into that trap of alcoholism. 4.5 years sober. So I'm doing great. But to be able to help other people and talk about it, and it's okay to talk about it. Just be professional and give everybody respect. It goes a long way. And also the suicide. I do have a traumatic brain injury. I do. It's weird because, well, you're invited. I'll invite you now. I'll say it. Well, the Compass Rose True North podcast, because I live in Indiana by Fort Wayne, we're going to host a party in that barbecue. I'm on the golf course. I'm already by the 16th hole. Have great cigars. It's got, a portion of the proceeds are going to go to veterans, mental health, homelessness, and first responders as well.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
to have bourbon there, all kinds of good stuff.
Well, somebody that joined us that's into the bourbon,
Right?
that's always good, you know. And the thing is, we all drink responsibly, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Responsibility. That's the key thing. Like I have preamble beer and all that. Hopefully, I can get Armed Forces Brewing to send me a little bit of beer and all that, so that I can share the love with other people
Yeah.
that come out there. And that's the whole part, is sharing it and getting the word out there to everybody.
Well, congratulations. And even on the podcast. And so I'm just honored and grateful you had me on today, and great conversation. And you know what? That hour went pretty quick, but at the end of the day, you know what? We got a lot of people that joined us, and I'm just glad to all of the supporters out there. Thank you for joining today and being a part of what you're doing, and congrats. And I'll pray for your family. And I every night I try to pray for people, and I'll pray for your wife, you know, so.
Thank you. And just so you know, I got your 6.
All right. I like it.
100%. I got everybody 6. Thank you for everybody who joined and all that. But I will go on a very funny joke.
Yeah.
See, I was at work, and because I have what's called PNES. That's when I'm going to start a fundraiser for that. It's psychogenic non-epileptic seizures. I have that, but prior to that, I went to work, and a chunk of iron struck me in the back of the head.
Wow.
So, and that's where I started smoking cigars. I'm in the back patio. I'm smoking a cigar. I'm like, well, heck, I'm going to start my own cigar company. All these weird, nice ideas started coming in, and it was crazy. So I tell my wife, being her going to church all the time, she's also part with Notre Dame University, learning that too. But I say, God played a really sick joke on me. He literally knocked some sense into me. He threw the chunk of iron right at my head and said, here, come on, dope. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Help people. Come on, let's get it out there. So that's the positivity out of it. It's funny. I can laugh now, but it's still, it happens. Things happen for a reason. Just like you were meant to do what you're doing. And thank you for being on my podcast. It's an honor and a privilege to have you on, and for you getting your word out there. And hopefully I'll have you on again sometime.
Well, let's do it. And like I always say, God bless the United States of America. Hoorah!
Hoo-yah for the Navy.
All right, there you go.
Everybody right there. Heart of a Lion, the man himself right down here. Please follow everybody, and everybody have a blessed day. And I love you, brother.
Love you too, man. You take care. Thank to all the listeners. Thank you so much. Hoorah!
Amen, brother. I got ya. I'll talk to you later, my friend.
All right, bye.
Bye.